Greetings, this is Brian Alexander and my latest Trump and Academia vlog report. If you're new to this series, these videos are where I summarize what the Trump administration has been doing to higher education and how colleges and universities have responded. Today we have just one topic, what the big beautiful bill might mean for higher education. I've divided this discussion into several parts. First, the big beautiful bill's direct impacts on higher education, including changes to Pell Grants, accountability, student loans, and endowment taxes. Second, some indirect potential impacts based on other features of the big beautiful bill. Finally, some reflections. There'll be copious links in the show notes, including a link to the playlist for all episodes in this series. And as they say, please remember to like and subscribe, but also I'd really like it if you could share and especially comment. Let's start with the direct impacts. First up, the big beautiful bill, and I'm just going to say BBB from here on, has one major change to Pell Grants, which is a financial aid system dating back to 1965. The change is that Pell Grants can now apply to short-term job training with accredited programs. This is a significant expansion. There's also a procedural shift for Pell. According to Nathan Greenfield's University World News article, quote, under the old system, Pell Grants were considered first dollar aid, meaning they were the first monies used to determine student aid. Then, explained Joe Fansmith, ACE's Senior Vice President for Government Relations and National Engagement, you layer other forms of federal and state and institutional aid on top until you've covered the needs of the student. Under the system envisioned by the BBB, Pell Grants would be added at the end of the calculation, unquote. Which means, quote, changing how you make the calculation, given the ties between Pell eligibility and state aid programs, is introducing a source of complexity and uncertainty in how we package aid, unquote. The BBB also adds $10.5 billion next year to the Pell Fund. According to Greenfield, this is far short of the $97 billion shortfall that the Congressional Budget Office estimates will accrue over the next 10 years. Second, the BBB launches a new economic accountability mechanism. The federal government will measure the financial outcomes of college and university programs, comparing them to what students would have made without taking post-secondary classes. Think of this as measuring the dollar benefit of getting a college degree as compared with stopping at a high school diploma. Campuses whose grads don't make more than high school grads will lose access to federal loans, which is a very punishing sanction, for many an existential threat. Data will be based on what grads make 4 years after graduation. The plan is to collect data not only on an institution as a whole, but also for individual programs. Third, the BBB changes several student loan policies, and here's where things get more complicated. The law caps lifetime student loan borrowing at $257,500 per person. There is now a change to Parent Plus loans, an annual limit for those of $20,000 for a total limit of $65,000 per student. Parent Plus used to be uncapped back in the 1990s. There is no change to undergrad loan limits, but big changes to graduate student loans. The law imposes a $20,000 $500 per year limit for grad school borrowing, as well as a lifetime cap of $100,000 per borrower. For those in professional grad programs, and it's not clear necessarily what counts as a professional graduate program, the limits are higher, $50,000 per year and $200,000 for the lifetime. The BBB also ends the Grad Plus loan program. Now, Department of Education Secretary McMahon celebrated this on X, writing, quote, thank you, Leader John Thune and Republican senators for passing President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. By establishing loan limits, the bill closes the open spigot of federal subsidies that drive up college costs and burden families. The bill also simplifies and streamlines student loan repayment for millions of borrowers, unquote. The law presents another change to loans by overhauling loan repayment plans. The bill ends all repayment plans on July 1st, 2026, about 11 months from now. From then on, all repayment will be in one of two plans, either standard repayments or income-based, the Repayment Assistance Plan, or RAP. For the RAP, as the American Council on Education put it in their analysis, quote, the base pay for the monthly payment amounts that are due is set to a sliding scale for $120 to 10% of a borrower's adjusted gross income, unquote. After 30 years of payments, any remaining balance is canceled. The bill gives the Department of Education $1 billion to administer this. Moving on from loans, the BBB raises endowment taxes for some universities. The new policy determines how much a very small number of very wealthy institutions pay by dividing a school's endowment by the number of students. The higher that per student value, the higher the rate. Some of the campuses most likely to pay out under this scheme include Princeton and Yale universities, MIT, Stanford and Harvard universities, and more. The image here is from a Forbes analysis. There's an interesting twist to this policy, also via Forbes, in that it only applies to schools with more than 3,000 students. So some very wealthy, small liberal arts colleges are exempt, along with one polytechnic university, one musical academy, and some very small medical schools. This is because Republicans wanted to spare Hillsdale College, a small, very conservative institution that's very popular with the GOP, and because some small other institutions lobbied for a similar benefit. Those are what I see as the BBB's leading direct impacts on higher education. Now let's consider the indirect impacts, as this enormous legal document contains many more provisions. First, cuts to Medicaid. Once these occur, which will take some time, they may cause suffering for some students, faculty, or staff, either because they rely on that service or because their family members do. That could drive them out of taking classes or working at our institutions. Medicaid cuts may also cause some rural hospitals and clinics to close, given their financial fragility as well as their disproportionate reliance on Medicaid. Such reductions will impact healthcare access for rural higher education. Some universities operate these hospitals, so they could face additional financial pressures. Now, if state governments face cuts to Medicaid, they may decide to spend more themselves, which may then lead the states to spending less on public universities. Second, the BBB famously maintains or adds major tax cuts, especially for the wealthiest. Those affluent people might then see their way to offering more gifts to the academy, either through donations to colleges and universities or to third parties, such as foundations or scholarship funds. Third, the massive cuts to climate change programs, the biggest cuts in the bill, mean, among other things, that it'll be harder for campuses to do climate work. Partnerships with local communities might also become more scarce. And, of course, the climate crisis will get worse. Let me wrap up with some reflections in my role as a futurist. On the Pell changes, perhaps we will see more enrollment in career and vocational technology programs. It'll be interesting to see if this option draws students away from other post-secondary options. There is also a risk of poorly designed programs quickly rolled out to get Pell dollars. Inside Higher Ed quoted one expert on this point, quote, "Wesley Wissel, project director for student success and affordability at New America, worries students will still be lured into subpar programs at for-profits or slapdash mass-produced online programs also eligible for the funds," unquote. On student loan changes, some students will use private loans when they reach federal money's limits, or reduce their enrollment time. These numbers might be large. According to a CNBC article, quote, roughly 9.3% of law students, 27.5% of medical students, and 60% of those in dentistry programs graduated with more debt in 2020 than is allowed under the new loan limits, according to calculations by higher education expert Mark Kantrowitz, unquote. Private lenders must be excited to take advantage of caps and cuts. We might see new financial products aimed at students and a lot of marketing. We may also see some students stuck with high interest rates or locked out of the market depending on their credit rating and/or course of study. Capping Parent Plus loans at $65,000 per student could hurt Black and Latino families who disproportionately use these loans, according to an Inside Higher Education analysis. Will colleges and universities reduce tuition as government grants and loans are capped? Will the loan changes discourage some students from applying or completing, leading to enrollment decline? On the accountability plan, the government measures this at the program, not just the institution level. Will campus leadership therefore be incentivized to somehow make sure that all programs graduates do financially well to avoid sanction? If so, how will they do this? Or will they see this as incentive to reduce or close programs that fail to win such pecuniary benefits? Additionally, the Department of Education will have a hard time making all of this work, given extensive staff cuts just approved by the Supreme Court. For example, Sarah Weissman has a good article describing the difficulties in standing up the workforce development Pell Grant systems when you have fewer people working in the Department of Education. That's all for now. I hope this video summary has been of some use to you. Please share your thoughts, additions, and other reactions in the comment box below. If you don't feel you can comment publicly, please reach out to me directly through the contact link at the end of today's show notes, as some have already been doing. Please like, subscribe, and share these so that we can get the word out and so that I can keep making these videos. This is a rough, dark time for those of us in higher education. It seems likely to get worse. I hope we can help each other out and fight. Please take care, everyone.